What's going on, YouTube Destructible? Today we're taking a look at the Acidic Touch Sentinel build for Grim Dawn Forgotten Gods. This build is a retaliation build and does a buttload of reflected damage at the enemies. One thing I'm going to mention right now that I mentioned in the video, and I know everyone's going to say it to me, please pick up Wendys Mark. I didn't emphasize it enough whenever I was doing the breakdown of the skills, but it's definitely a very good ability to have. I didn't use it. I dedicated those points elsewhere. However, the main piece to this set, basically, you should pick it up because you're going to benefit a lot, and it does a ton of damage. I actually went through and just did it right now after I'd already made the guide video. So please make sure just to note that. And if you like the video, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. And you guys have a wonderful day. I enjoy all the feedback. You guys, the community's just been really, really awesome. What's going on, YouTube? Today we're taking a look at the Acidic Touch Sentinel build. So I've already seen a video come out for this build similar to it, and I just wanted to go in. I'd already been working on this one, so I figured, well, I might as well show it now. I felt it was complete enough to bring it to everyone's attention. So the Sentinel build is basically an acid retaliation build. It does a very substantial amount of acid retaliation damage. Right now I have no buffs active, and it's sitting at anywhere from 86 to 120,000 of that right now. So we're going to get into the build and go through the items of choice that I made. If you would like to skip all this and just jump down to the Grim Tools link, you can just take a look below and you'll see it there. So starting off, the set is the Judgment of the Three. So the Judgment of the Three is a new Forgotten Gods set. This makes the build, essentially, and gives you all of that extra retaliation damage that you're going to need for this build. So yeah, let's just go through it. We got the Judgment of the Three, which is a legendary one-handed scepter, giving you that retail damage. It's also reducing offensive ability to enemies with Bloody Pox, and giving you some of that vitality damage being converted into acid damage for Bloody Pox. And it's additionally giving some attack speed whenever you activate it. So that's going to help you out a lot. Rings, I chose the set piece for this one, actually, which is the Judicator's Seals. And these ones I did because obviously they gave retail damage, but they also gave a very high amount of offensive ability and defensive ability, along with a couple of good resistances needed. And yeah, and then it's also giving him, on this one in particular, some reduced attack speed retaliation for 2 seconds. And then it's got a 100% chance on enemy death to use Sealed Fate, which is going to give 2% health back, 250 health, and then 8 offensive ability and 8 defensive ability. So this is almost always active unless you're just doing some single target fight completely. Then you're not going to be seeing this active, but it's almost always active in combat. We've got Kalagra's Visage. If anyone's watched my videos, I tend to butcher names. Things to note with this is the proc on it, which is a 16% chance of 902% to all retaliation damage. That is the big reason this is the item of choice for this. It's giving some pierce, physical, and trauma damage, but hey, we don't care about that. We want the retaliation damage for this build, right? We've got the Mythical Pestilence of Dreg. Again, some more acid damage here. It's giving us some Occultist and Oathkeeper as well skill buffs, which is really, really helpful. And then it's converting some physical damage to acid damage, giving some crit damage. Honestly, this is just all I had, and I mean, you can't really go wrong. It's giving you, +1 to 2 different trees. And then the ring was the Mythical Open Hand of Mercy. This was, again, part of that 2 set that I mentioned. This is giving some defensive ability, health and energy regen, etc. And then also 8% reduced target resistances as well. Then we've got the Defender of the Three. This is converting some acid damage to Wendys Mark, and then 8% retaliation damage added to Wendys Mark. I was not using Vire's Might. I would like to note for those who mention it, you can definitely use it. Yes, you can, and you probably would love it. However, I didn't go with it. I just didn't want to. I wanted to saturate more points into other skills. However, you could just put a couple of points into those, and it would really, like, I could probably put a point into them right now and would just immediately get a whole bunch. I think at least 4 to 5, points would go into it. So it wouldn't be a bad idea. However, I don't have it. But I'd like to mention you could definitely pick that up, and it would do a lot of damage and help out with killing stuff. And then we've got the shoulder guards of the 3. This is giving some more retaliation damage, plus 2 to Vire's Might. So there you go. Again, some more points to Vire's Might. Honestly, I keep seeing it right here. I was using it. I didn't feel it. But, I mean, sitting here talking about it right now, I feel kind of bad. So I might go back and pick it up and then show you guys later. However, there you go. Some more Vire's Might. We've got the Mythical Viper Fang Grips. This is giving some increased offensive ability. And then it's giving actually 97 increased to offensive ability. And then a 2% flat increase to offensive ability, which is really helpful. And then that Blood of Dreg, which is nice. Some Avenging Shield, which is also nice. And then 10% chance of poison damage being done with Blood of Dreg. Increased attack speed with Blood of Dreg, which I use. It's on cooldown all the time. And then what I like about at the end of this is it's giving you some poison damage to the Aegis of Menhir, and it's also converting fire damage into acid damage on the Aegis. So that's going to help out a ton because you're going to be using Aegis a lot. Then we've got the stone treaders. Excuse me. This is giving again just some more retaliation damage. It's giving you some points to the Aegis and then some points to Bloodburst. And then we've got the granted by item ability, which is 100% chance of activating, and it gives some damage absorption to physical and pierce damage and increases your armor. So that's going to be really helpful when it procs. We've got the Mythical Mark of the Forbidden here. So let's just see some. This is going to be buffing your Bloody Pox a little bit more. Increases the health regeneration by negative 200%, giving you some acid damage to Righteous Fervor. And then it's giving a big increase to, a small increase to your maximum fire, cold, and lightning resistances, some good elemental resistances, chaos, and then a cool thing that's going to come from this is that Toxic Gas Cloud, which is 15% chance on attack, and it gives you a 15% chance to for the target to fumble attacks and impaired aim on them. So that helps out a lot, especially if they start fumbling or that impaired aim kicks in. It's just going to save you taking that extra damage. However, this is a retaliation build, so you do want to take some damage. But this isn't the most tanky build. It's pretty tanky. It's just not the most. And then we've got Mythical Murmurs Kiss here. This is the belt. This is giving some more to the defensive ability and some attack speed, which is going to help out a ton. This is converting some fire damage to acid damage, aether damage to fire damage, and then gives you a Murmur's Kiss, which is a granted on skill. It has a half-second recharge. It passes through enemies and just does some acid and poison damage. So just some more AoE to go out there. Then we've got Absolution. I used this on my God Shield, I believe. I'm almost certain I did. This is going to give, again, some more retaliation. Some acid retaliation. It's going to increase the damage of your block on your shield. And then, most importantly, is going to be that Absolution, granted skill, which I keep on cooldown as well. It's a 6-second buff that increases, it does some acid damage, it decreases the shield recovery time, increases the shield block chance, and then increases all retaliation damage by 400%. We've got Mythical Thornhide leg guards right here. These ones are giving you some increased retaliation damage. The big thing is 100% chance on enemy death to give you that 325% to all retaliation damage, and it has a 5-second duration. So this is almost always active if you're just running in, just clearing out mobs. That that retaliation just really ramps up in the long run there. And then we've got the armor of the three, the last piece, and this one gives Eldritch Blast. It's a granted skill. Again, obviously some retaliation damage, some buff to the acid retaliation from the set, because this is an acid retal build. And this does Eldritch Blast, which is a granted skill. It's a 50% chance when hit to do a giant acid explosion, basically. And 20% reduction to enemies' health, and then some poison damage over time to those enemies. So there's that. Now, some of you are probably looking at this and going, what the heck are you doing here, man? You definitely can pick up Dreg's Evil Eye. Two abilities, like I already mentioned one earlier. You can definitely pick up Dreg's Evil Eye here and go down over to Focus Gaze, which would just increase the damage. I don't have it right now. I was using this and took it out whenever I was saturating some points into other things. Right away, I'm just going to say you can pick this up, and it helps out a ton, especially if you're getting into those big boss fights. You could pick up this. And then we got Bloody Pox, which is going to reduce enemies' health. It's going to do some acid damage, and then you're also buffing your attack speed and giving some debuffs to the enemies, like as for instance here, -6 to the offensive ability, and then some more poison damage, vitality damage, and then it has a 30% chance to confuse target for 3 to 5 seconds. Alright, Blood of Dreg. So this is a big one that I put a lot of points into because it's going to give you that offensive ability, some health regen, also some acid retaliation. There you go. We want that acid damage going in there. And then we've got Aspect of the Guardian, which is increasing that physical and poison and acid resistance, as well as, basically that and some acid damage. Okay, and real quick, I'm going to mention it. So you could pick up Vire's Might right here, and it will do a buttload of damage because you're getting all that conversion going over to it. And one of the items that I just mentioned earlier, I forgot which one it was. I think it was the shield, but I might be wrong, is also going to give you some acid damage over to that and convert some of the retaliation damage into Vire's Might. And then I picked up the Aegis of Menhir. And we obviously wanted to pick up the Aegis of Thorns to go with this, which is going to convert some of that retaliation damage to the attack. So, obviously, and then converting that fire damage into acid, because we're just full-blown acid build here. And then the Avenging Shield, increase the radius of it, increase targets, some crit damage on it. I think I went to 19. I think it was by the 19th point, I could be wrong here, that it hit an additional enemy. So it's hitting up to 8, I believe, 8 at a time. Let me see. Oh, no, 6. Excuse me. Then we've got Reprisal. So this is going to be adding some more retaliation damage to the shield, some burn damage, and some cooldown reduction, etc. It's really good. I picked up Summon Guardians of Empyrion here, and then converted their damage over to Acid and Vitality. I didn't put a lot of points into them because really the only reason you want them up is to reduce those poison and acid resistance. And then they do a little bit of acid damage. They're alright, they do some decent damage, but they're really just there to reduce enemy resistances to the poison. Righteous Fervor, Fervor, I don't know. Righteous Fervor is going to be your default attack, essentially, and this is something you want to keep active at all times. I have this linked over, I'm sorry, where was it at? Here we are, Consecration. So you're using Righteous Fervor because it does a ton of damage, and then also it's going to increase your attack speed, your armor, defensive ability, and then also it's giving you elemental resistance because this build is not fully capped on elemental resistance. However, once you go up and start attacking there, it brings it up to 75, which is fine. That's going to do the trick. We've got Retribution here, and I think I just threw a point into here. Excuse me, I threw several points into here because it's converting that retaliation damage over for this build. Then we've got Presence of Virtue. It's giving you some physical retaliation, a buttload of offensive ability again, which you want. And then we got Haven here, increasing that health, healing effects, shield block, and shield block damage, which is going to help, with soaking up some of that damage there. And then we've got Rebuke, which is going to do some resistances to life reduction, reflected damage, and then increase, just a flat increase to retail damage when active. And then almost lastly, we got Path of the Three. This is an active toggled ability, which is going to convert all that acid damage over, give you a huge acid damage buff, and some skill cooldown reduction, convert some physical damage to acid damage, etc. We've got Resilience, some increase to your defensive ability, healing effects increased, physical resistances and max resistances. This is only going to proc when you're at 66% health or below. So it's a little bit of an oh crap activation. Ascension. This is a move you use to increase retaliation damage and your damage and some damage absorption. And then gives you some additional resistances and offensive ability increase as well. So that is the skill trees that I used for this build. So let's move on over into the devotions before I roll out the gameplay footage of this build. Alright, so I had a hard time. I had to go back in and redo this completely, and then I did it, and I wasn't certain. So change this at your will, whatever you would like to go with. I picked up, I'm just going to go through the divine abilities that I went with, or devotion abilities. I picked up Tardos Hammer, so this is going to be doing like these hammers that come out. It's a 33% chance on block, and it increases retaliation damage, which is the biggest reason I picked it up, because it's doing a ton of damage. You see 17 to 2,300 damage, and that's without anything active. That almost doubles once everything's procced. Alright, so if you guys know me, I really like Wendys Mark here, and this is just doing a big, just a 65% of attack damage is being converted to health here. There could be other abilities you can go with, but I didn't, so I ended up choosing Wendys Mark. I almost always do, and I put this on the Aegis because this is my main ability of choice whenever I'm going out into the wild to just, mess stuff up. And this is going to be converting that damage over to keep you alive. And we've got Messenger of War over here. This is a 20% chance when hit by melee attacks to increase your movement speed, increases your slow resistance, and then does a 250% increase to all retaliation damage. The physical retaliation is good. We still are benefiting from that, but not as much as the acid retaliation. We got time dilation here, and I think the biggest reason I went with this is because you get a buttload of, you get a huge increase to your flat stats, but you also get a buttload of just good defensives and resistances. And additionally, it's a 20% chance on attack to reduce all those active skill cooldowns, which is just, it's gonna help you get that Aegis back up, help bring your cooldowns right back up real quick, so you can just pop all of them. I think I have 4 active buffs that I'm using almost all the time. And then we've got the Fist of Fire. This is a 20% chance when hits that does 22% of all retaliation damage added to the attack. It does some main hand damage, which doesn't do a whole lot. Petrifies the target and reduces their physical damage for 5 seconds. It does a lot, so you just want all of those retaliation things going on there. So I'm going to come over here real quick, start activating all of my buffs real fast. It doesn't really matter if I have that other one up, and as you can see, I've got about 1,268, and if I have my mouse bound right, I'm going to activate number 5, 6, 7, and 8, which is Eldritch Shard, Ascension, Absolution, and Blood of Drag. And that brought it up to about almost 2,100. And you can see the damage is insane. So that's it. I'm about to roll out the footage. I hope you really enjoy this build. And if you guys like it, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm about to start working on my leveling guide now, so I'm going to step away from the builds. Me and my friends, we're all kind of coming together to come up with some good ideas. do some reviews on other things, and I just want to make sure I give you guys a good leveling guide. So, yeah. Anyway, have a good day, guys.